Everyone knows what the M25 is. Connect Plus was set up in 2009, it's a 30-year DBFO. It's financed off the back of widening sections that were delivered ahead of the 2012 Olympics, which is £1 million capital works project. Now, obviously, that's not solved all the problems with the M25, but it's certainly increased the capacity of the network. Connect Plus has also got the ongoing liability and risk to maintain the network. So it's unlike a most traditional DBFO that I step down to the operator, that still sits with the SPV company, DBFO, Connect Plus. So we've got to maintain the asset, we've got to keep it in that condition. So our project, as it were, is to hand it back at year 30 in an equivalent condition to that we inherited it. Which is a bit different to going and building a railway where we know hopefully it was built because there were trains tearing up and down it. The day that we cut the ribbon and say we finished, it would be fairly dull, really, at the end of the day on the network. But that's the world we're in, that's what we've got to manage, and that's our kind of big challenge. And you can see some of the statistics there. It's a difficult asset, it's a complicated asset. And the other point to note really is it's not just the M25, it's various hotels going in and out of London, which actually equate to the length of the M25, 45.2. So it's a big network. And some of that is Victorian, some of that is 1960s, some of that is when the M25 was built in the 80s. So obviously we've got everyone knocking our door now to come and work on this network because it's very attractive. It's not, is it? So, just very quickly, this is who we are. Some of you might remember 4 years ago I stood here actually talking about where we are and where we're going. We were very young then and we were setting up some new frameworks, and it wasn't any easier then. What was different, and the question actually very relevant to it, is the market is different. The appetite in the market. Contractors I'm talking to recently are turning down tenders. 4 years ago they were screaming out, please send me a tender. It was a different environment. So that's the world we're in. This is just briefly a fairly normal setup for a DBFO type arrangement. You can see we're funded by the Secretary of State. Our client is Highways England that we interface with directly. And as you know, Highways Agency transferred from Highways England last year, and we've been working with them on the M25 to help that transition as well. When we started in 2009, the project actually almost didn't start because of the credit crunch, which is a bit of a distant memory now, but the tremors of that still carry on. And it was very difficult to raise the finance, so we actually ended up with 15 lenders, and that's multiplied, we've now got 28 lenders. So there's a lot of people we've got to keep happy. All those people can kind of stick their red card up and say, what's going on, what are you doing? We've also got 4 shareholders, which are industry shareholders, and they put in together £200 million to get the project off the ground. So they've got high expectations, they need the project to support. And Connect Plus set up, as you see on there, lifecycle renewals framework, which is the core of what we're talking about today. And they're the delivery frameworks that look after our asset. They deliver the payment schemes, structure schemes, to maintain the asset in its condition. A big part of how we do that is delivered through our operations company, which is Connect Plus Services, which is a circa 600 people organisation delivering everything from incident response from the service to managing and supervising our workers. And we also have a third stream where we procure and deliver improvement schemes which enhance the network, which we get additional funding for. So I've already painted a pretty picture of the M25 and it doesn't get any prettier really. We've got a fixed income. That's a great thing, I know exactly how much money I'm getting. I'm not quite sure which bits of that are good enough or not good enough within the makeup of that. That's the issue I've got. So I know, Connect Plus knows from here till the end of this contract exactly how much we're going to get every month. It's index linked, but that's the reality. There is no more money. Built into that, as you can imagine, it was assumed that we'd get more efficient, we'd innovate, we'd find some great ideas. No one told us what they were going to be, no one gave us that magic book. We've been working on it. We've also found some things that maybe a bit uglier that we maybe would not have liked to have found today. But that's the reality, we've got to manage that. The base assumption is we'll be 10% more efficient. Is that efficient? Is that innovation? Is that doing more early to save more later? And interesting piece on HS2 again is the language of whole life cost. I'll learn more about that later today. Very much embedded in what we do. Whole life cost is all sorts of things, and the graph at the bottom there kind of demonstrates how we can manage that a little bit. Is it do more now, do less later? Is it do less now, put it off? Is it do something every year to keep going? It's all those things actually, it depends on the particular scenario. We've also got an ongoing constraints within our contract. We've got the normal standards we've got to keep up the right side of. We've got payment constraints. So the most harsh of those really is that if we overrun in the morning, we get penalties. That's money out the window. Can't get that back. Don't get anything for it. We've got to manage that. We've got to keep the condition of the network above a certain threshold before financial penalties kick in. Again, that's every day, all year, all the time. And then, as I mentioned before, we've got a year 30 back test. Now, if that doesn't start in year 30, it starts 2 years ago. And that's an incremental process that we work towards. So that's our kind of world, if you like. What we've done to date, the benefit now is actually we've done a lot of things. When we started the project, we didn't have a credit rating. People in the marketplace were looking at Connect Plus and saying, why should I work for you? I'm not sure who you are. I don't know if you're going to pay me. I don't know if you're going to be collaborative. I don't know if you're going to be very adversarial. Fair question, because we didn't have any track record. So we've done a lot of things with the right side of our financial model. Haven't had any disputes. Touch wood. That's not wood. That is. Don't have any coming. And actually, that was a big core kind of differentiator right from the beginning that we set out to say we need to objectively, as a business, work to avoid disputes. It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to happen by writing a contract. You will not raise a dispute. You can't do that. It requires a lot of things, a lot of engagement. But that was something that we looked very hard at because we started down that route. Think about that in a 30-year context. We've got a reputation for being a client that's always in dispute. It's not going to make it very attractive. So whilst that wasn't such an issue when the market was quieter, it's an increasing issue for us because we're a very small fish actually in an increasingly kind of crowded pond with these big scary projects like HS2 attracting all the talent. We haven't had any deductions on payment for our condition. We've done a particularly, I guess, relatively high profile project which was Boston Manor Viaduct, which is on the M4. And that was a kind of a scary day when we were told we're going to close the bridge in early 2012 and the Olympics is coming in 12 weeks. Can you sort that out, please? That was a high-risk environment. The way we dealt with that was very much through the relationships that we started to build for that community to do it. It could have gone horribly wrong. To give you the context of that particular project, David Cameron was insisting on daily texts, so you know what's going on. I didn't send the text. So we also have some very difficult structural bridge joints to replace. So everyone knows the B2 bridge, main example, we've got a number of these. And we had to develop a way of replacing those, which didn't involve closing the bridge. Imagine the congestion and the impact of doing that kind of thing creates a very difficult place. So we've done that. We've developed new solutions for pavement quality concrete, which we've born out of solutions from the airport that delivered on a motorway. It asks all sorts of questions. Well, how do you bring that together? How do you bring the logistics? How do you make your concrete? We've delivered that. You'll know about the Dartford Free Flow project, which is taking out the previous toll system where you had to get £2.50 out of pocket and pay. Along with Highways England, who funded that project. And we strengthened the M4, which has been a long ongoing kind of issue, delivered today in the programme. Now, all this is great, it's got us to where we are, but it gets kind of more difficult going forward. But what we've realised when we stood back looking at our new procurement, which we need to have in place, is what we do now actually, what can't ourselves, what we do, and it's evolved. This is what it's evolved into. I'm not going to go through all this, but you'll see that there's a lot of things going on within our business, within the M25 community. And I can't point to any one of those and say, well, that's the magic bullet, that's the secret, that's what makes it all happen. All these things contribute to bring that all together. It's interesting to talk about collaboration from a safety perspective, very much the experience we've had, people are very keen to collaborate around safety because it does get personal. You know, no one wants to harm anybody. But why can't we do that for all these other things? And that's what we've been, that's the kind of mindset we've been taking to it. So we can facilitate around road space, for example. Everyone who wants to get on the M25 to do their work. Now, 4 or 5 years ago, the way everyone did that was shout out, stick their elbows out, and not move. That was it. Everyone was looking after their own bit. Actually, everyone's got something within that. Everyone's got some skin in the game. You don't get a better way of doing it just by saying do it better. You have to bring those people together. You have to listen harder. And actually, as a client, you have to take some harsh lessons and say, you know what, we're not doing this well enough. We're not giving this community enough. We need to change some of the things we're doing. It is definitely not a one-way street. So we've been working hard with second and third tier engagement, but we don't really believe we've done nearly enough in that territory. Going back to one of the questions John was asking actually was about the innovation part of that. How do you get that? Because none about it, tier ones, they enable a lot of facilitation, but most of the real innovation comes from that supply chain. How do you really make that happen? We're going to do more. Contractually, you'll recognise what we do now as being a fairly standard kind of industry model now. So we have 0 value 5-year NEC frameworks, about 40 packages we call off a year. We use a fairly standard 50-50 pain gain model within that. We actually mostly directly award, which we did in the early days, and that's because we realised very quickly that we need the contractors to help us develop the programme and the right approach and the right risk allocation, and help them develop and engage with the right supply chain to do that. So it goes back to that wicked problem that you often have about, well, I want a contractor, but I don't exactly know what I want to do. So sort of a bit of language that I'm trying to change actually is it's not early contract involvement, it's just the right contract involvement. Early than what? Earlier than late. It's, you know, so very much it's about forget whether the contractor, the client, the designer, the project manager, with the right people, you've got to get together to create that scheme. We still then have very robust processes to make sure the prices are right, because we've got 6 years of knowledge about how much things cost, and we've got lots of information and data to do that. That's how we do it, and they're all administered one by one. So it's like a traditional kind of pipeline of contracts that are coming up down that chain. Connectable Services work with us, and they carry out all the kind of, if you like, the enabling around that. Asset management is key to what we do. But again, they can do that, but they can't. They can only, the way they can do that amount of value they can find, the efficiency they find, is limited if they do that in isolation. We recognise the rest of that in terms of traditional elements of how you manage and deliver jobs. We also use design frameworks for more kind of high-end difficult stuff. So, for example, we use Flint & Neil to help us look at the 2 bridge, because it's kind of a worldwide area where you need those superspan structure tech specialists to work with you. Now, someone asked me the question, is that my commercial team? I didn't answer that question. One of them in this room, so don't know what I'm saying. But I saw this a while back and thought, actually, that's kind of us, really. We're not in mobilisation, we're not in design, we're not in handback, in terms of what we do. We're in all those things all the time. Very easy, very seductive to get sucked into, I've got to do this by Friday, I've got to go to that meeting next Wednesday. Excuse me, I've got to get this project design next month. When do we step back and go, actually, how do we change this and how do we do it better? So in our context of 30 years, it's not the same as a 4-year project where get the project over the line, get your learning, take that to the next project. We've got to make that happen and generate a headspace to think differently, to be the guy at the back with the great idea. We don't know what those things are, but we know we need them because we've got to find those efficiencies. Posing the question here, what do you think? So a key part to what I want to do, the wheel here is our core asset management wheel, and in simple terms, this this takes all the elements of how we manage assets, from inspection to analysing the data, developing schemes, defining schemes, delivering, handing back, and again and again and again, because that's what we do, day in, day out. Traditional model, the inside of that wheel, you'll see that's what contractors do. If you like, that's the contractor element or engagement piece. Question is, how can we make that engagement and that involvement right around the wheel? And actually, it's not just about contractors, it's about the supervision team, the contracting, contract management team, the commercial team, who often kind of just rock up when the jobs move in, and get all those people better engaged around that wheel. A big part of that, there's a language piece here, so a lot of which is picking up as well. I've changed some of the language around how we talk about supply chain. I know my boss, I would like to use second and third tier, for example. So this kind of, I'm better than you, you're better than not good as him, all that stuff in there, something we're thinking about. But we know that we're very reliant on second and third tier, but how do we better engage with them, better understand them, and some of the things that Simon was mentioning about understanding supply chain better and analysing it as part of how we're looking at doing some of that. And within this, we as a client need to be prepared for the direction we're going. We can't just sit back and go, it's all about you, it's all about them, it's all about everybody else but me. Very naive. So, I'll let John get you thinking, get moving. Hopefully I've given you a shape of where we're at and what we're trying to do. I'm sure John will get your...
Okay, yeah. So very briefly, Chris has given an overview of where Connect Plus has come from and where it is. And the challenge is, if you like, that we need to find 10% plus savings to maintain the network, at least 10% savings, yeah? In a rising market, so Connect Plus can't, as a small fish, can't sort of screw the supply chain down and push down on margin and profit and everything like that. That's just not going to work. And as you've been sitting for an hour or so, what we thought we'd do is just a break up. So think for a few moments on your own, and jot down thoughts, even if it's just mentally. So Rob, get a pen, start jotting things down. Given where Connect Plus have come and want to go, what ideas do you have to develop the commercial and contractual arrangements where to really push innovation, push collaboration on that whole life basis? And as you think about those, notice what ideas pop up, but then just share in groups of 3 or 4, and have a quick discussion, partly to break up, sitting there, partly so you pay more interest in what I say, and partly so we can get ideas from you in case we miss something, which I'm sure we have. Okay? So, that's the exercise. We've got 5 minutes, and then I'll be, well, Chris will do two slides, and then I'll be up. Okay? So off you go. And what we want is, we would, given the forum, we can't really get direct feedback from you, although if you come up with innovative stuff, we'd be really interested to hear it. But what we want you to do is feedback bingo, basically. So whenever we say something which you've thought of, you can shout out, bingo! Yeah? Okay? Glenn? We might have to tone it down a little bit to red cards at some point if there's too much feedback bingo. But for the time being, bingo, okay? If we say something that you've thought of. Okay, right. Over to Chris now.
So, just a couple more slides from me actually, and John, as he likes, will get into some more of the nitty-gritty of what we're actually doing on a more from the contractual perspective. Firstly, the contract doesn't live in isolation, which some people I know would look to. It doesn't. It works very much in combination with the way people work together. And the shape of how we do it, so the balanced scorecard model, which seems to be adopted by most clients now, and OHS2 are using that. And we've had a balanced scorecard that we've used through the duration of our project, but we're taking that to the next kind of iteration, next development of that. And that's a kind of a real core thing which is born in procurement, but it certainly doesn't stop when procurement finishes. It lives and breathes throughout the duration of what we're doing. It becomes the central kind of, if you like, the notice board, if you like to say, this is what we're looking for. And how we do that helps people orientate around those requirements. So We're building on what we've done, so these two things on the right here are kind of a further iteration of what we've done in the past. So we're looking more now at the business as usual capabilities, we describe it. Actually working collaboratively, that needs to be a business as usual capability. It shouldn't be something that people are getting specialists in to say, who's my collaborator, bring him in. We do collaboration on a Wednesday. It should be built in to what we do, whether it be health and safety, whether it be contract administration, whether it be program management. For us, and that goes back to clause 10.1 as Ben kicked us off with. It's not buried in the detail, it's high in terms of mutual trust and cooperation is across everything we do. Making it happen though, isn't easy, and it's not a kind of a button. It's a relentless stream of activity actually, which is what we find. So the balance scorecard, you'll see we're actually requiring more at the high level point of we're looking at a sustainable, supportive, value-driven culture. And they kind of great words, but that's what we want to do. That's the heart of how we want to set up our world. Previously we talked about a vision of alignment more. Now we're talking much more integration. So down below that you'll see previously our balance scorecard had things like leadership and community involvement kind of as part of 28 boxes. We're actually saying, I want those very high level things across the piece, because they are across the piece. So leadership and direction isn't just I'll rock up to the launch workshop and wave the flag and get the troops going, and then I'll see you when when it all goes wrong and shake you back up again. It's got to be there day in, day out, one thing about year in, year out. When it's going well, as well as when it's not going well. Integration with the community and relationships. That's focusing actually on the kind of supply chain community actually. And that's really then about the specialists, the second tiers, the third tiers, all the different elements of that, how you integrate them better as opposed to have a handoff, I'll do my bit, you do your bit arrangement, when that's not the most appropriate way. And to the right of that, you see innovation and value. That's fundamentally, if Connect Plus don't find innovation and value, we've got a sustainability problem, which comes back to hard pounds and pence. But that's not to diminish from the kind of core pillars at the bottom there, which are all critical, which we kind of recognise as the more objective kind of balance scorecard measures around programme, environment, health and safety, etc. So, carrying on some of the things we've been doing is the theme of increasing the emphasis of that to a more aligned and more kind of mutually beneficial model. So engaging with the second and third tier in a more structured way through tier.
Bingo!
Alright. Definitely.
Sorry, someone's got to kick this on.
Anyone else got that? Anyone else want to? No one know what you've written down. So, well, Richard. There's no prizes, but no free coffee after this.
There's champagne.
So, it's definitely a key element that actually is kind of, I think, something we realise that actually as we've been working through and developing what we're doing, it's become more and more and more apparent in all the conversations we've been having with various people. And it's actually the model, and there's a bit more detail on it, but in principle it's bringing the second and third tier to a similar place of engagement that we've got currently with the first tier. So right now we have an annual scoring process, we have improvement action plans, and we have quarterly leadership meetings etc. with our tier ones. Well, actually, what should we expect the tier ones to be having with the tier twos? Actually, it's modelled on that same piece. And some of those tier twos are actually we do some supply chain analysis and found that some of those tier twos are spending in the region of when you combine them, about 10% of our turnover is going to, for example, traffic management. And those traffic management contractors are a small pool of businesses. The way we manage them and deal with them now is through all sorts of different transactions and also through our tier ones, different arrangements, different engagements, different relationships, different payment terms, different rates, etc., etc. Well, how is that going to get innovation efficiency? Clearly it's not, whether that be in the supply chain or actually our side of that and the tier one side of that and managing it. So structuring that that supply chain in that way, not to all of them, because there's a huge mix of different people in that second tier, but you certainly will be taking the approach that some of those key second tiers, I'm thinking probably less than 20, we're able to say, well, you're here every month, you're here all the time, your influence should be higher, the benefit that you get from this world should be higher, but the way we engage with you has to change to enable that to happen. So, you saw the slide earlier, and what we actually have done is say, well, what's going to change? And not, as you can see, fundamentally this way of working isn't going to change. One of the things we are going to change is the scoring is actually 360, so we don't actually score or ask our supply chain to score us as Connect Plus. We do pick up improvement actions as we go, but how good are we as a client? I can say, we're great, it's easy to say, no we're not, but how good are we? You know, an objective measure, and what we've got to do to improve objectively. We know some of that, but we don't really have the kind of objective, systematic way of understanding that, so that's definitely something we do. I speak to one of our secretaries and somewhere that the early contractor involvement ECI, elsewhere it's called ECI apparently, but he couldn't remember whether it was even earlier contractor involvement or extra early contractor involvement. Either way, it's things there, isn't it? It's bringing it earlier. And as I said, it's not just about earlier contract, it's just earlier the right people involvement, which is definitely something that we need to be as a client leading on, because people can only kind of do that if you as a client open that door and make mechanisms to do that. And as you see, you've talked about the integration of the second and third tier as opposed to that kind of engagement. Something just to kind of touch on is the collaborative cost reviews, which what they are actually, they're modelled on tender adjudication meetings. So anyone who's worked for a contract will know what they are. It's in front of your director. They say, why don't we get into this job? Why do we want it? How can you live for that price? That the programme doesn't work? Why are you using no suppliers? That's what that is. But it's together with the contractor, the client, the project manager, the people that are going to deliver it. So how, is this actually going to work? And we actually consider the risk. We actually put the risk in the right place. So we're actually using the right supplier, we use the right rates, etc. And that is something that we've developed. I think there's more mileage in taking that further, again with the second tier as well. So that's me for now, unless I get someone back, but in terms of how it will work in more of the contractual nuts and bolts, hopefully there's some bingo call in a minute.
Okay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to have a framework for 10 with the ability to extend by plus 2 years. But there will be a 6-year break. And the reason why there's a 6-year break is because after 4 years, if it's not working, we need to start getting our mind around what we're going to do instead, and it'll be at 6 years. And at 10 years, again, or kept coming up for 8 years, 2 times 4 years, well, actually, it's not really working well, we need to think again. So that's why the break's here. Our hope is it's going to be for 12 years. Our hope is it's working so much, so well, that we can extend it beyond that, potentially. You've then got all this detail. So there will be, initially, an annual cost reimbursable contract with an annual budget, which will include all packages. So rather than letting each package as a separate contract, we're going to say, okay, we've got, essentially for contractors, roughly £10 million worth of work. We've divvied up these packages in consultation with the supply chain and say, those are yours. We think those are the best fit. It might be by geographical area, it might be by continuity of work or work type or whatever, but those are your packages. You're not going to have individual package target cost incentivisation on that. The incentive is going to be around the whole packages of work for that year. Okay. The annual contractor score will modify that pay and gain share. So on that, let's say £10 million, it'll be approximately that. If they make £1 million worth of savings, approximately 15% they'll get, regardless. But another 15% will be multiplied by their annual score on the balanced scorecard basis. Okay? So that means that they don't pursue cost minimisation to the exclusion of everything else. A large part of the gains, the remaining 70%, are put into a community fund. And that fund is then going to be shared out amongst the contractors who contribute. So, so the idea is that they have a strong incentive, and that up against the performances. So there'll be things they have to achieve in that year. There'll be the scoring that they have throughout the year on various things. And based on that score of the community, that will depend on how much of that 70% they get. So there's a big incentive for them to collaborate. Now, to some extent, there's an element of if something goes wrong on the M25 and they can't get the kit off in the morning, then they can ring up another contractor and say, have you got a lorry which can tow it away or whatever it is? And they say yes, because it's going to affect our share of the game, yeah? So we'll help out. But actually what we want to do is to drive the collaboration and the innovation, etc., across the supply chain, so that they are positively motivated to share their best practice rather than keep it to themselves. The general works information, we'll have a general works information so that which applies across the piece, and then we'll, instead of at the moment, what happens is the designer takes out the most similar works information from a previous project and updates it to the current one, and therefore you've got about 30 pages perhaps of what really matters hidden within a 270-page document. We want to have a general works information, and then each package has specifics, and they reference that general works information for what has to be done. The idea is that we can then continually improve that general works information on a systematic basis. There's an automatic annual, if you like, improvement cycle, but it can be improved in the year. That should enable everybody to be able to focus on what really matters about the project and lessons learned to be incorporated into that works information. We will have additional programming and financial requirements to reflect that on the one hand we want, as the contractors do, sort of, it is an annual package of work, and therefore we want to look at our program management of it, yet at the same time we want that being able to look at each individual package and see how that's working and program-wise, financial-wise. And there's going to be a greater emphasis on self-certification of quality and defined costs, but there is going to be more rigorous requirements about what they've got to show and demonstrate, and more rigorous audit requirements. So deep dive audit requirements, and essentially if we start picking up on things which aren't as good as they should be, then and extra audit is required, then the contractors will be paying for that. Okay? And think about it in the overarching relationship of up to 12 years, is if trust starts to disintegrate around the finances, etc., and so on, that's going to be really bad for the relationship. So we don't want to go there, but that's some negative motivations. And we've got going to have a separate innovation funding process, which is it's going to be part of the contract documents, but it's a separate document. And the whole reason for that is we want people to go out and be able to say to the tier 2s, the tier 3s, this is our innovation funding process. It's a separate document. If you have good ideas, come to us, talk with us. We'll help put together a business case. We'll part fund it, whatever it is, yeah? So that we can get that innovation. And previously, Connect Plus have run trials off motorway trials to develop innovations before they're put on it. So you have an innovation, you have a good idea, and this is an ideal way to progress it. And if it can work on the M25, the busiest motorway in Britain, it should be able to work elsewhere. So that, we hope, will make us, or one of the things which will make us very attractive to tier 2s and tier 3s to come and work with us. In terms of supply chain arrangements, there'll be Chris has covered some of this, set up second tier arrangements with their second tier suppliers. So a supplier day hosted by the contractors, they'll be leading on that. We have added into 26.3 quite a few requirements about what they have to do, can't do, etc., to make sure that it is pushed down. That includes fair and prompt payment terms. We're going to have project bank accounts, effectively, or package bank accounts. Much higher visibility of what's coming up and posting of challenges. That could be the project-specific challenges, but also we seem to be spending a lot of money on this Any ideas from the supply chain to solve it? What ideas do you have? Again, feed into the innovation process. Requirements to contribute to the forums and balanced scorecards. They will be part of the scoring, or the contractors and how they bring on their supply chain, engage with them, get innovations. That will be part of the scoring procedure, how they are evaluated, and therefore part of how much gain they get, and also a tilting, shall we say, of how much work they get the following year potentially. Frequent performance reviews, hopefully not over the top performance reviews, and maintain and monitor the supply chain map collectively so that Connect Plus can see how much is going to that contractor. Well, actually, shouldn't we be engaging with them more strategically? No bingos, yeah? Come on. So we will allocate work to the packages to the contractor. So the criteria we're going to be using are overall value of work, including margin percentage. Now, I'll come back to margin percentage, but think of it as the fee percentage for the time being. Okay? So we'll be looking at that. Starting point is equal allocation. We'll also be looking at the previous year's score that they get. We hope that that's not going to be a sort of, tilting backwards and forwards that way, this way, and so on. We hope it's going to be a tilting. So the top performing contractor in renewals and pavement, so there's effectively 2 contractors for renewals, general civils, 2 contractors for pavement renewals. There will be some motivation based on workload. The top performing one will get a bit more work. Yeah, but we hope, because we want the community to develop, if there's violent swings, then it's not working, put simply. And then efficiency of delivery factors, continuity of work. Right, okay, good stuff, because that's massively underused in frameworks, in my view. Geographical area, well, we're allocating packages in the same area, and therefore they can merge them together rather than doing them separately. They can do one after the other or at the same time. Skills and capabilities, so one contractor might develop specific skills in an area. Of course, you don't want to become, there's the reliance factor on that. And a real drive to not to over-constrain. So the ideal is we say, here's your packages of work for the year, do them when it's best for you. Yeah? Now obviously that's idealistic, there will be some constraints. But by and large that would be the summer, hint, right? Okay, for obvious reasons working outside. But it will be, it's up to you. So we're looking at good program management and arranging them that. That's where we think some of the efficiencies can come. How's the annual budget built up? Well, you have at the bottom base costs. So these are costs which aren't attributable to any package. So they will be their core management, their framework manager, their framework commercial guy, etc. Any yard, etc. they have which is dedicated to the M25 works. Okay, base costs. Then you have the individual scheme budgets, and then what we've got on top of that is a programme risk allowance, which we'll see what comes out when we start it in there, because we're not absolutely sure. But the idea is that there will be some risks which we could have arguments about risk allowance, we could consider them in isolation for each individual package, but actually if they're cross-cutting across the whole programme, then both in terms of agreeing what that should be financially, but also in terms of how they're managed, it makes sense to have it above an individual package. All those costs will go into the forecast contractor costs. But notice there's little bits of gaps in those brackets, which might well be, or will be, Connect Plus direct costs. So those could be employer supplied items. So in one of the slides you had mower joints. So Connect Plus buys those joints and gives them to the contractor. They could also be planned payment charges. So payment charges in old speak are lane rental, except they apply on a daily basis. So is it up till 5 o'clock it's free, 10 till 5 it's free, then if you're on the network or a lane from 5 till 6 you get a little bit of a charge, and then once you start getting after into 6 and 7 o'clock, they ramp up pretty darn massively to 150k an hour, something like that, on the busiest bits, yeah? So there are some times when together it might be worthwhile saying, to actually do this job, or we just need this time to do this job, we've got to incur those charges, yeah? And they are planned in. So Connect Plus, as part of the overall the overall budget on that side, you allow for them, you build them in. So you get the four costs, contracted costs, and you charge by the margin percentage and the profit percentage. What the hell are those things? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to tell contractors that their fee percentage is 0, right? So that we don't change the contract. What we're going to do then, though, is say, we're going to tell you what your profit percentage is. So what profit is all not quite guaranteed, because if you overrun potentially, but we expect you to make 2% basically. Yeah, that's the starting point, 2%. Yeah. The margin percentage is all the other things which are in the fee percentage. All right. And rather than have it where people are spending cost plus percentage fee, and therefore there's a driver to spend more because they get more margin, more profit, the margin percentage is calculated based on those things in that side, and then applied, and it becomes a fixed sum once you enter into the contract. So that again, so all the driver is, well actually if I reduce cost, that's good, not a counter driver. If I increase cost, I get my fee, an increased fee percentage. That will be the bit that will be, there'll be a degree of competition on that, but actually what we want is realism on it. So we will be saying, give us an idea of how that's built up, so that we can assess the realism of it. And part of that is so that when we become to start looking at building up an annual budget, we can say, well actually, wasn't that in your fee, in your margin percentage, yeah? Or it's not in your margin percentage. So we've got a really good idea. So if they've allowed for unplanned payment charges in their fee percentage as risk, why the hell are we now having it in your program risk allowance, yeah? Or whatever it is. How will it work for savings? Okay, how will it work for savings? Well, let's say the annual budget is £10 million. The annual cost is £9 million, which includes Connect Plus costs, and then, but the contractor's defined costs are £8 million. It's the overall saving that matters. The reason why I should have emphasised, the reason why it's cost reimbursable, one of the reasons is we don't want any niggling arguments over adjustments of £10, £20, etc. throughout the year. The prices, if you like, become a forecasting estimate. This takes it from an alliance where it's the overall budget which matters. So when a problem occurs, the emphasis is on how do we deal with it, rather than, well, I think I'm entitled to £1,000, I think I'm entitled to £1,000, you should only get £800, etc. The whole focus is on dealing with the problem, reducing the cost. Okay. So the contractor gets that guarantee 15%. The next 15% is subject to that annual score, so multiplied by it. Previous frame or current framework, it's around 60, 65 is the normal marks they're getting, and the remaining 70% is put into the community fund. We're going to put a placeholder in the initial contract, but ultimately once the contractors get on board, what we're going to do is we're going to sit down and Connect Plus are going to say, these are our objectives, these are what we think or matter to us. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the incentive arrangement and what you've got to achieve and the realism of it for you to get that. So rather than impose it top down and say this is what you're getting, we're going to have a chat about it. That's how good incentive mechanisms work, because they engage the supply chain. How will it work for overspend? Well, the first part, 30% will come out from the contractor, remainder comes out of the community fund, and we're not quite sure what happens if the community fund is exhausted. Again, the driver there is if there's a problem, everybody mucks in. It either reduces the community's gain or ultimately puts it into pain. Connect Plus will still have the option to remove a package if overall for their portfolio they say we're going to be overrunning. We've only got a fixed budget. Won't talk much about these. These will be weighted. They're fleshing these out. The guys at Connect Plus are fleshing these out and what they mean in practice, and will be scored. Those things can be refined over the course of the framework because it's a 12-year framework. So what is good today might become standard in 5 years' time. There might be some arguments over, oh, I thought it was a 7. I'm clearly at 7. No, you're clearly at 8. But actually, next year we need to refine the wording.
This year the emphasis is on collaboration. Next, once we've got collaboration in place, next year's it's innovation, so the weighting could change. And what we'll do is actually in terms of payment incentive, there is certain criteria which have to be fulfilled for them to get incentive payments at the end of the year. So they will have to have, if you like, have the CDM file complete, put in all BIM data, have all the commercial boxes ticked to get any incentive payment. So that at the end of the year you can just put it aside and move on. What do the contract documents look like? The exciting part, obviously. We'll go to the standard bits. Form of framework agreement, framework part 2 and part 1. Framework terms and conditions. Framework agreement, starting point was the NEC framework contract. But given the nature of the bespokeness of what we're doing, it was the starting point. You have the scope, types of work in the framework, fairly standard. The employer's framework information, so framework information is about how the parties work together, and you can see the sort of things in there, so governance, the different forums. CI stands for continuous improvement mechanisms, which are partly related to forums. The extent of earlier contractor involvement, so a framework for that. Issue escalation and dispute avoidance. So what part of the thing we think that people shy away from, there's a problem, is because it's disputes, yeah? Actually it's an issue. And if you can't solve that issue at that level, let's elevate it and solve it quickly. And insurance, we're going to have joint insurance, effectively contractors all risk insurance held by Connect Plus and not duplicate that down there. And we might have contractors framework information, which is the promises they made at tender, and so that we can hold them to account. What comes out of that? We're going to have a selection procedure, classic or framework contract. That's about the whole process of how we allocate work and get it to say yes, get to annual contract and say you have that, got that. Feeding into that is the quotation procedure, which is how contractors build up the price of a package, how those are assembled for the annual budget. And that culminates in the collaborative cost review. And we're also going to have defined cost information, which is where we have information for people, perhaps for specialist bits of kit, where basically an accountant goes in and says, what does it cost? Yeah? And that is then used to build up the package costs, the package budget, but also used by the QSs during the year. So rather than each individual QS for each package goes off and says, I've got to audit that and find out the cost, they just look in that book there. It's got to be verified, independent, and signed off by the company secretary or the contractor. There'll be the annual scoring procedure, which is how an individual contractor's performance is measured and is multiplied by the second 15% of the savings. There'll be the community incentive procedure, which is how the community is evaluated in terms of their achievements. And, well, it's just a little one is community partners. So who else is within that community incentive procedure? Who else do you have to share the pot with? Okay. And separate innovation process. And contract level documents, standard ones, form of agreement, contract data part 2, contract data part, and so on. The NEC engineering construction contract, cost reimbursable option, those are the secondary options we're looking at. And then the option Z clauses, an update to the existing, and they're pretty good, to be honest, but we're trying to rationalise them down. But also, obviously, there's the new ones to make it work, as in it's more of an alliance. There's a budget for the year, for the whole packages, and the pain games around that budget, regardless of what happens during that year. Not absolutely, but there are very few equivalents of compensation rates to that. And then if we go down a level, you've got the accepted programme. That needs to both take account of how are you doing work on an individual package, but also how's it being managed as a programme. What we'll have is we'll have a monthly dashboards and monthly financial reports. The monthly dashboards essentially is a dashboard for each package, which can be, hopefully we're going to all IT this, be merged up so that it can report on a contractors, how they're managing their programme of packages, and then those can be merged in, and Connect Plus can now get a view of how they're managing their whole portfolio of projects, and hopefully it'll be all seamless after asking them the same information. information. The monthly financial report we're working on, but it is, well, what information do we want to see each month? What information do we expect to want to be, as in to go and look if we have a question? To be really clear about that. Because that seems to be a bit of an area of subjectivity and discussion. Employers' works information, standard technical, standard management, and then the package-specific ones. What we're hoping to do with the standard management stuff is almost have plug and play, as in we say, okay, for this aspect, it's a separate revised document, and therefore if we decide to update it at the year end for the next one, we take out version 1 and we put in version 2. And lastly, we'll have contractors' works information, so they will be expected at times to do some design. Site information, the temporary verb, the generic stuff, but also then some of the package-specific on it. Okay? And once during the year, that site information, you've got your outline design, they then develop it, they work with the designers, and then it's replaced by the actual final design ready for build. Okay? With no adjustment to the overall budget. And that's it. If you're a contractor and you're interested in tendering, Will Dyer is the person to contact and he'll point you to where to go. Okay? So I've been going backwards from Glenn, so I missed it. All right. So with that.
Okay. Thanks, John, Chris.